In the early modern English period, the advent of the printing press by William Caxton in 1476 played an important role in the standardization of English language. The printing press allowed for the mass production of books, making written English more accessible and widespread. This in turn contributed to the rise of a more uniform language. The spread of popular education, increased literacy rates, and the growing number of schools during this period also fostered the spread of a standardized dialect. These socio-economic changes, alongside the influence of the printing press, helped consolidate the role of London English as the linguistic norm. In terms of vocabulary, the period saw a radical expansion due to the influx of words from other languages, especially French and Latin. However, in grammar, the forces of change were more conservative. While the vocabulary of English grew rapidly through borrowing, the fundamental structure of its grammar remained relatively stable. This dual development, rapid lexical expansion alongside a more conservative approach to grammar, was a defining feature of early modern English. It set the stage for the language's continued evolution into the English we recognize today. In the 16th century, the English language faced several significant challenges. One of the main issues was the growing recognition of the language in fields where Latin had long been dominant, especially in academic and intellectual circles. The second challenge was the establishment of a more uniform orthography or standardized spelling to bring greater consistency to the language. Lastly, there was a pressing need to enrich the vocabulary of English so that it could adequately serve the demands of wider and more diverse usage. At the time, Latin, along with Greek, was regarded as the pinnacle of linguistic achievement. These classical languages were considered refined and perfected, especially in comparison to vernacular languages, which were often seen as immature, unpolished, and lacking in resources. There was a prevailing attraction to ancient learning, and the revival of classical knowledge during the Renaissance led to an increased interest in the study of Latin and Greek. This period, known as the Renaissance, witnessed not only a resurgence of interest in classical texts, but also in the broader cultures and philosophies of ancient Greece and Rome. Knowing Latin and Greek became a mark of intellectual prestige, and these languages were central to scholarly and artistic endeavors. Despite the dominance of Latin and Greek, vernacular languages like English struggled to gain recognition. The Renaissance, with its emphasis on humanism and classical learning, created an environment in which Latin and Greek were often seen as the languages of culture and sophistication. In contrast, English as a language of the common people was viewed by some as inadequate for expressing the complexity of thought and culture associated with the Renaissance. There was a popular demand for English to be recognized alongside Latin and Greek, not only for its utility in practical life, but also for its potential to reflect the rich store of knowledge and experience preserved by ancient civilizations. The Renaissance revived interest in the practical ideas of the ancients, including ethics, government, education, military, science, and others. For English to be taken seriously, it needed to be equipped with a vocabulary that could express these sophisticated ideas. The process of enriching English became crucial. This issue of enrichment involved incorporating words from Latin, Greek, French, and other languages. However, this borrowing of words was not universally accepted. Some people objected to the foreignness of these new words, arguing that they disrupted the natural flow and resonance of English. The introduction of foreign terms was seen by some as an imposition that diminished the authenticity of the language. On the other hand, scholars like John Milton and Thomas Eliot argued that the careful and judicious importation of words from other languages could enrich English without undermining its identity. They believed that borrowing words from classical languages could help English evolve into a language capable of expressing the complex ideas being revived during the Renaissance. The process of enriching English also involved the development of new words and expressions, some of which were coined by influential figures like Shakespeare. Shakespeare is credited with inventing over 1,700 words, many of which are still in common usage today, such as cold blooded, luggage, and marketable. His contributions to English also include memorable phrases like goodness sake and break the ice, which have become embedded in the language. As English continued to evolve, the establishment of standardized dictionaries became an important step in its development. The first significant English dictionary was published by Nathaniel Bailey in 1721, and by the mid 18th century, Samuel Johnson's famous dictionary further codified the language. These early dictionaries not only explained the meanings of words but also provided insights into their origins, many of which were rooted in Latin and other foreign languages.